שלום וברוכים הבאים, היום הפרק עוסק במצרים, בשכנה שלנו. מצרים שיש לנו איתה הסכמי שלום, אבל זו מדינה שהמערכת יחסים איתה, היא די מורכבת, במיוחד בגלל כל מה שקורה עם עזה. מצאתי בחורה מבריקה, חכמה, מצרית, אסלית. הרעיון אמנם באנגלית עם כתוביות בעברית, ואני יודעת שזה לא המצב האידיאלי, אבל לפעמים אני רוצה להביא משהו שלא שומעים בשום מקום אחר, והברירה היחידה זה באמת בשפה אחרת. אני מקלה על הצפייה בגלל שאני מוסיפה פה כתוביות ברורות. אז אני חושבת שזה אחד הפרקים הכי מעניינים שיש פה בערוץ. אז שתהיה לכם צפייה מהנה, ואני מחכה לכם בסוף הפרק לשמוע את הדעה שלכם ואת ההתרשמות שלכם. תהנו. So, first of all, I'm very happy we find the time to talk. I'm following you and I can see what you are doing. It's not only your talent and courage, talent and professional information you are giving to the world, but you also have these muscles that called courage. I don't know how you are doing it, but maybe we will talk about it if you want to.
Thank
Uh,
you.
you know, I didn't meant to ask you, but it just popped up into my mind right now. Um, when was the first time you understood Israel is not the bad guy? But please introduce yourself before we are starting.
Sure, yeah. So let me start by introducing myself very
Yes.
quickly. I'm an Egyptian. I was born and lived in Egypt my whole life until October 7 happened, and I was forced to leave, unfortunately, simply because I publicly condemned Hamas. And I said that I support Israel's fight against this terrorist organization that killed people with cold blood on October 7. And I said this to an audience, so crazy audience that was celebrating Hamas terrorism. And thus it stirred terrible backlash against me. People started to send death threats. Some radical Islamist groups went to my family house. They wanted to kill me.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and
Wow.
the most shocking part is when I contacted the security authorities in Egypt and I told them that my life is danger, extremists are coming after me after I made this statement. They refused to help me. The security authorities in Egypt refused to help me. And when I said why, they said, because you said you support Israel.
Mm.
And we are speaking here about a country, Egypt, which is has a peace treaty with Israel, you know. But unfortunately, this was not the case. Always, this will take me to your question about when I realized that Israel is not our enemy. It has a very interesting story actually that changed my life forever. So I was like everyone else in Egypt. I grew up believing that Israel is the enemy, the Jewish people are evil people, they are just there to kill us, to hurt us, and we have to always fight against them. And in some also places like in the mosque and so they would cover it with a religious cover saying that it's a religious mission to kill the Jews. So at the end of the days, you know, when we finish all the Jews, the Messiah will appear and the world will be a better place. So imagine growing up like listening to this, dealing with this in the media, in the school, in the textbooks, even inside the mosque every Friday on every
Wow.
Friday sermon. So I grew up like everyone else, you know,
Mhm.
thinking that Israel is the enemy. Also, I've never at that age, I was 18 years old, I've never get in direct encounter with a Jewish person.
Mm.
So when I was 18 years old, I was a freshman student at in a university in Cairo, and it was my first year in university and first year in the world as well, as you know when you are that young. So it was the time of the second Intifada.
Mm.
And it was a big deal in the Middle East, as you know.
True.
Uh, there were protests everywhere against Israel in Egypt, including on my campus. So, like, you know, a young student, I just joined the protesters and I was like very excited with the kufiyya and everything, you know. Until about 2 months joining these protesters, something tragic happened. The people organizing the protest, which later on I knew are the Muslim Brotherhood, They were the ones leading the protests on our campus under the protection of the Egyptian police on the
Mm.
campus, on the police campus, on the campus police, under the protection of campus police, I mean. In this specific protest, they wanted to make a show by burning some flags. So they started by burning the Israeli flag, which was okay because it's a protest against Israel, you know. Then they burned the American flag, which I couldn't understand at that time with my, very limited mind then. And then they burned the Egyptian flag.
The
And for
Egyptian
me,
flag.
exactly. And
Wow.
and the campus police were just right there watching them and did not even intervene. And I was like, what? No way. Why they are doing this? Actually, we grew up. We have, Egypt, we have very
Yes,
strong
of course.
nationalist, we have very strong nationalist sentiments. The flag is something to be honored and respected. We salute the flag every morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, So burning the flag for me was like, no, 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 something is wrong here.
Yeah.
These people cannot be good people and at the same time burning my flag. And this, Shiran, was
Was
the moment
the,
I,
you
yeah,
realized.
it created this shock created some kind of cognitive dissonance for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was the moment I got out of the ideological box of Jew hatred that I was stuck into my whole life. Then, I mean, the 18 years of my life then. And then I decided to educate myself about everything. I went on and I educated myself about Islamism, about Judaism, about Israel. What is Israel? Who are the Jewish people? Where they come from? And who they are exactly? And it's amazing. Like, imagine, like at that age, it was my first time to know that there was something called Egyptian Jews. I didn't know before.
Wow,
Before
it's
we,
you didn't
yeah,
know, like this
I
is the
didn't
big
know.
story of the Jewish people.
I didn't know exactly, right? But it was always hidden from us. Um, we were always told that we are only Christians and Muslims in Egypt. There were no Jews. Jews does not belong here. But then, to my shock, no, there was a huge Jewish population in modern Egypt, and actually, the story of the Jews started in Egypt
Egypt.
thousands of years ago.
Exactly.
So
This is where our history started.
exactly. So this made me doubt everything and start like, and I also educated myself about the geopolitics of the Middle East, which later on became my occupation, my work.
Mm-hmm.
It's now the work that I am doing, analyzing the geopolitics of the Middle East, my work, my study, my passion, everything.
Everything
So,
is about it.
so it all started here.
So, if you mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, I think I know Egypt don't like them and they want them away from the government and they don't want them to control or be too much powerful. But still, I don't understand the differences between Sunnis and a Muslim Brotherhood. What is the difference?
Oh, this is a good question. Actually, people think that Muslims are one thing,
No,
but
we know
actually,
there is Shia and there
Shia and
is a
Sunni.
Sunni. What?
Yeah. Only Shia and Sunni,
This
right?
is what
But no,
most of us, this is what we know.
even within the Sunni, it's a huge spectrum
Mm-hmm.
of Muslims, different degrees. So if we look at it like to make it very, very simple for people, just imagine there is a spectrum. On the right side of the spectrum are the extremist Islamists. We call them Islamists, not
Mm-hmm.
Muslims. And then on the right side are the Muslims who are, on the left side are the Muslims who are more reformist, more spiritual, more liberal. And in the middle are the majority of Muslims. They
Mm-hmm.
are the average Muslims who, yes, practice the religion, believe in the religion, but don't necessarily belong to one of these groups. For
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I belong to the left, to the reformist liberal Muslims. I am a Sufi. And Sufism is more about spirituality. It doesn't has very much to do with what's happening on earth. It's more about the relationship of love with God and so. So this is one thing. The other the on the right side, we have all the problems. The right side of the spectrum is where all the problems exist. It's where the radical extremists exist.
Mm-hmm.
So radical extremists or radical Muslims, radical Islamists, they have different degrees as well. We have the worst of all are the jihadists,
Mm-hmm.
from which came, terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and so. Just slightly before them, there are the Salafists. They adopt this very jihadist ideology, except that they work only on local communities and work inside local communities. Their goal is to spread Sharia, but not all the time using violence as a means, similar to how they are very radical, very extreme, but they are not using violence the same way terrorists use.
Mm-hmm.
Terrorists, the priority for them is violence and political power.
Yeah.
Then you come closer to between like this extremism and the moderate Muslims, the center
Mm-hmm.
Muslims are the political Islamists.
Mm-hmm.
The political Islamists are group like the Muslim Brotherhood, and from the Muslim Brotherhood came out offshoots like Hamas and the Islamic Jihad and so. Except that Hamas and Islamic Jihad over time, they developed an ideology that is more leaning towards the jihadist terrorist ideology using violence and so. But groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, they are political Islamists. They are the oldest coherent radical Islamist groups that we know of. They don't practice violence directly, but they created the base of the ideology
Mm-hmm.
upon which all the other radical Islamists are using it in order to practice violence and using it as a justification for
For
practicing
what?
violence.
Yes, exactly.
So, which makes the Muslim Brotherhood more dangerous, by the way, than the terrorist organizations, because, well, terrorists are terrorists. You know them. They are not a hidden enemy, but the Muslim Brotherhood is a hidden enemy. They are working on hearts and minds. They are destroying even societies like the
Like
United
what?
States.
Give me an example of what specific they are doing different from others, extremist Muslims.
Yeah, actually, we can look at the example of how the
Mm-hmm.
Muslim Brotherhood are operating right
Mm-hmm.
now in the West, for example.
Yes, please.
In Western countries, they are not going out there in the streets carrying weapons and telling the people, you have to free Palestine or you have to
Burn
be
flags.
Muslims. Yeah, yeah, they are not going out there with weapons. No, what they are doing, they created a fake cause, in my opinion, that's called Free Palestine. And they created a flag for it, they created a movement around it. And now this cause is being used as a cover of practicing anti Semitism, Jew hatred inside countries like the United States, where the number of Jewish people is even bigger than the number of the Jewish people in Israel. Now they are actually doing this without any violence. Just
Mm-hmm.
they created the environment, they created the atmosphere or the context for all the Jew haters and all the American haters and all the Israel haters to come into this umbrella or
Mm-hmm.
this sphere and just project their hate to the world.
Mm.
So this is why they are very dangerous.
This is why I ask you. I didn't know exactly what is the differences between both of them, but now, okay, let me ask you something according to what you explained. Right now in England, there are like 8 or 9 Muslims mayor. Uh, are they belong to Muslim Brotherhood? This is
Not
kind of the
directly.
things they are doing?
Look, they don't belong directly to the Muslim Brotherhood, but they are aligned with the ideology, not the
Mm,
ideology. They are aligned with the strategy
mm,
that the Muslim Brotherhood has drafted and has been working on since the 1980s. In the
mhm,
1980s and 90s, two interesting documents came out. They were written by the Muslim Brotherhood. The first document is it's called the Project.
mhm,
And it's mainly about the work of the Muslim Brotherhood in the West. It's the strategy of how the Muslim Brotherhood can sabotage the Western civilization
mhm,
from within And by the way, I'm using their words. It's not my words. It's exactly
Quote.
what they
Mm-hmm.
wrote in their project to sabotage Western civilization from within and replace it with their Islamic Caliphate system. And for those who don't know, the Islamic Caliphate system is basically Muslims ruling the world over everyone else and applying Sharia. And Sharia includes, of course, discrimination against people from other religions, even killing gay people,
Yeah.
discrimination against women. All of that is in Sharia. So this is what they want to do. So this is their mission, and this mission has been going on for 40 years now.
40.
Over 40 years, yeah, they call it
The
actually they call
100 years plan.
exactly.
Yes, I
Now,
know.
if you calculate it, it's about 40 years now, and they are already succeeding.
And I heard what her name? She's from Lebanon and she's living right now in America. Brigitte, why I forgot her name.
Ah,
Brigitte
Bridget,
Gabriel. Brigitte Gabriel.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
she wrote a book about it. And she said this is exactly what they are planning. And they already enter into the USA government. And Obama, the President Obama, took a consultation company from outside the White House. And this consultation company supporting this plan, and they are connecting Obama to Iran.
Wow, this
Yes,
is
this is
wild.
what she said. And
This
this
is
is
very
why I know
wild.
what you are talking about. And she
Yeah,
said she warned, I don't know, like it started like 10 or 20 years ago, and she warned the West, be careful. This is what they are going to do, and you are blind and you don't see it and you are sleeping. Right now, you can see the plan, I think, almost everywhere. You can see
exactly, right? Yeah. The
yes,
100-year plan is
yeah,
exactly implemented everywhere, actually. And
exactly.
also, the scary part is that they succeeded in their goal to create convergence or unite with groups that are not Muslims and make them adopt their cause. Like, for example, the progressive left here in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
or or the communists and Marxists in other countries as well, Western countries, and they made them adopt this mission of the Islamist project and the explanatory memorandum, and so the 100-year plan. They made them now the executors or the people taking action or implementing the 100-year plan,
Wow.
which, in my opinion, this is the most scary part, actually.
Yes, it is. Interesting, we got to this point from the moment you woke up from the from the illusion that Israel is the bad guy. But let's go back to Egypt, okay? One of the questions that I'm asking myself, and I have no answer, I assume what is the answer, but I'm not sure about it. Why Egypt allow so many ammunition, weapons, cement, equipment to build tunnel inside Gaza? Why Egypt help them?
Yeah, actually, Egypt, I tell you what happened. So, since the 90s, Egypt allowed the tunnels between Gaza and Sinai, and they thought that it is a form of supporting Hamas and supporting what, everyone is bragging about, the resistance against Israel. And so, why? Because although Egypt had a peace treaty with Israel, it did not want to. This peace was never real. Actually,
I
this
agree.
peace treaty in Egypt has always been called a strategic agreement with Israel. So they thought so because of this peace treaty, they cannot openly support Hamas, but they can allow things like, smuggling things from Sinai to Gaza. So this happened under the eyes of the government and under the eyes of the military for so long, since the 1990s. And then when the Arab Spring happened, the Arab Spring
Mhm,
Revolution that
mhm.
ousted Mubarak from power, and the Mubarak regime, this created a security gap in Sinai because the military had to move to Cairo because it's now the new leader of the country. And so So, and then the Muslim Brotherhood very quickly after the revolution took over. So, kind of like the border between us and Gaza, it was very open.
Mm.
And Hamas infiltrated into Sinai, and they using these tunnels, these same tunnels that Egypt allowed them to create. Now they are using to infiltrate into Egypt, kill the Egyptians, kill the Egyptian military personnel, attack Egyptian Christians, do terrorism in Sinai, and create.
Sorry.
This was like an alarm for Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to get rid of them. We have to fight them. It's a security
Mm-hmm.
threat. So what they did at that time, the Egyptian president Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the year 2013, when he was still a minister of defense,
Mm-hmm.
he went to the Israeli side because according to the peace treaty, Egyptian troops can get only to a certain limited area in Sinai. They cannot get very close to the border with Gaza. So to do that, they need a permission from the Israeli side
True.
based on the peace treaty. So he went to his counterparts in the IDF and he said, we want to get closer to the border and we need your cooperation on giving us this permission. Guess how the Israeli responded?
Yes, of
They
course. You can do
not
it.
only, yes, of course, not only that, they
What?
said, we are coming to fight with you. We are coming to fight with you in Sinai. Which makes me every time like I get moved because it's
Do you
so
think we are
sad.
naive? You think we are naive?
No, you're good people. No, you're only good people. You're only good people. I can't believe Egypt did not even think of paying back the favor. When Israel is in a similar situation, again, it's the same enemy, which is Hamas. Egypt did not even help Israel with this enemy. They helped the enemy against Israel. They helped Hamas against Israel. So the Israelis said, we're coming to fight with you. And for the first time in the year 2015, we saw like Egyptian troops and Israeli troops together in Sinai fighting against the Hamas and the radical Islamist organizations that was formed there with the help of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. They called themselves ISIS Sinai, Daesh
Mhm.
Sinai. So, and it was very successful. After that, Egypt decided to close all the tunnels, and they really did a very good job on that.
Mhm.
They closed all the tunnels, they even drowned the tunnels with water, and this was great. Then, about 3 years after that, around the year 2018, yeah, 2018, the tribes in Sinai, which was doing a very big business, were running a very big business exactly. They are now losing their biggest source of income, the
Mhm.
tunnels. Now there are no tunnels. So they started to threaten the government, threaten the military that we will do riot, and if we do riot in Sinai, you will not be able to control us, which is true, by the way. If the tribes in Sinai are not cooperative with the government in Cairo, it will be a disaster. So all the time they are trying to appease them and accommodate them and then eventually, after many negotiations between the tribes and the military, they agreed in, I think at the end of 2018, or yeah, mid 20, summer 2018, they agreed to open the tunnels again. They told them, okay, you can go. The Egyptian authorities told the Sinai tribes, okay, you can go, resume your business, open the tunnels, but it has to be one way, meaning that you can only send things from Egypt inside Gaza, but nothing or no human, no thing comes from Gaza into Egypt.
Mhm.
And actually, the tribes kept the promise because they want their business to go on. So they
Mhm.
kept the promise and they did so. But what happened is that during these years, because also the situation in Sudan and the civil war
Yeah.
there, so a lot of weapons were smuggled into Sudan.
A lot of women.
Weapons,
Ah, weapons, weapons. Sorry, I
weapons
thought you said women.
were,
Okay.
yeah, were smuggled into Sudan, and the militia there, they wanted also money, so they sold some of these weapons to other terrorist organizations in the regions, the most important of which is Hamas,
Mm.
and they smuggled it through Sinai into Gaza. And from there, Hamas got all these arms and munition that it was able to use later on against Israel on October 7. And also Iran was smuggling things through Sinai and through the tribes. It was terrible. So we ended up with the situation of October 7. We ended up with the terrorist attack of October 7, and with this situation that all of a sudden Hamas is a military power and it can come and threaten people to that extent. So this is the story of the tunnels, and
Wow.
unfortunately, there is a lot of corruption from the
Hmm.
Egyptian side on this issue because
Yes.
military and officers and security authorities there, they were watching this happening, they were approving it, and there are reports that some of them even were taking commissions on
Hmm.
every transaction that the tribes were making with Gaza.
First of all, this is very interesting what you are saying. And this is why I wanted to talk with you because I knew you will say things that I never heard before. But it still didn't give me the answer why Egypt, that barely have money to feed their own citizens, put in all her budget into the military and they built
Mm.
a huge one. And even lately, I heard that they cooperate with China.
China, yeah,
So,
it's a disaster. Yeah, in my
what do you think
opinion.
about it?
I know it's look, Egypt feels, first of all, Egypt feels that its regional role as a big sister of Arab countries is diminishing and has been diminishing to the point that we are seeing countries as tiny as Qatar, which was not even on the calendar, is now leading everything, is now
Yes.
leading everything in the region. And Saudi Arabia is the new big sister in the region.
Hmm.
So Egypt is losing its regional role. They feel sidelined. They feel like, not important anymore. Even when the American president came to the region, it's the first time in history an American president comes to the Middle East region and not to meet with the Egyptian president. It never happened. So it's so insulting for the
Mm.
Egyptian leadership and the Egyptian military, which looks at itself as, oh, we are the strongest Arab military, and so
In,
so this is insulting. At the same time, the economy is terrible. It's
yes.
terrible. We have an economic crisis that we have not seen before in our whole history, by the way. It's
Hmm.
unprecedented economic crisis. And
Because of
this,
the sweats.
no, because of the
No.
bad policies,
Mm.
bad government
Okay.
policies.
Okay.
Taking a lot of loans, taking a lot of
Mm.
debt from international funders and the World Bank and so, and ending up in a terrible situation and no investment inside the country. It's terrible.
Mhm.
So it's wrong policies by the government, by the leadership. So what happened is that we are in a situation now that Egypt wants to, or the Egyptian leadership, which is the military, the intelligence, and the president, they want to find something to keep the people distracted from their problems and at the same time uh, a justification for their bad performance on economy and politics and
Mhm.
the oppression and everything. So what is the easiest thing is a historical enemy, historical
Israel is historical
Israel.
anima. Yeah.
Yeah, they call it like this all the time. So what is the easiest game to play is to say, oh, Israel is at the door. We are getting in war with Israel, and now they are even exaggerating it. It's not anymore a war with Israel, it's a war with Israel and the United States from behind it
Mm.
because it supports it. We recently, actually, some of the media that is supervised by the intelligence, they made some videos claiming that, in the videos, they said so, like showing off the Egyptian arsenal in Sinai right now and saying, oh, but if Iran needed to fire rockets over thousands of miles, actually, Egypt is very close.
Wow.
Which was exactly, this was my
Wow.
impression when I first
Wow.
was like,
Wow.
what?
Wow.
What?
We are
What are you
like,
saying?
okay, so they are saying it black and white, very loud,
Yes,
crystal clear. We want to fight Israel. But you think they really intend to fight, or it's just a propaganda to
it's
unite the
propaganda.
citizen?
It's meant for domestic audience. It's mainly
Mm.
for the domestic audience. They don't mean it. Egypt, like the Egyptian leadership, knows very well that if we get in war with Israel, we have no chance of winning over the
Really?
Israeli military. Of course, the Israeli military is way, way more powerful than the Egyptian military, regardless of all the weapons we are purchasing and everything.
Tanks, oil, whatever
Yeah,
you
we are
have.
only maybe
Mhm.
the Egyptian military is bigger in number,
Mhm.
but not in technology.
Mm.
And now we are in this age, it's a matter of technology. Whoever has the better technology wins, and Israel has this technology. Also, the Israeli army has been involved in direct wars
Mhm.
with like traditional wars and non-traditional wars with terrorist organizations.
Mhm.
This is an experience that the Egyptian military today does not have.
Does not.
Maybe in the past, historically,
Yes.
but no, it does not have. It's not engaging in any wars.
So
So
they're
they
just trying to show
don't.
off they have the power, they
For the
want to
domestic
control.
audience, is
Mm.
that you still they are giving a message to the Egyptian audience that you still need us at the military to lead the country because
Mm.
you cannot afford having a civilian government that cannot deal with the enemy next door. This is
Yeah.
exactly the message they are
Mhm.
trying to give.
Yes, because in Israel, there are a lot of voices. Some of them saying tomorrow morning Egypt can attack us. Some of
No.
them say no. Some of them say no, we have a real peace agreement, which I don't think we have. And in a way, it
And
makes
there
me
is
feel
nothing
very,
to gain. There is nothing to gain from attacking Israel. What's the point?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Extreme Muslims don't think logical.
Yeah.
I don't. This is why I'm talking with you. I'm trying to understand how they think
But
behind
but
what
I
I
tell
see.
you, but I tell you, even when jihadist groups like and extremist Muslims, like the fatwa that was made about jihad on Israel, and so Egypt refused to open the border for them, refused
Mhm.
to get them, and the recent march to Gaza, and so Egypt even refused to host them in Egypt, like the global march to Gaza,
Mhm.
or get them closer to the border. So Egypt knows, like it. Yes, it may like adopt this rhetoric for the domestic audience that Israel is an enemy, we support Gaza, we support Palestine, and so and so. But no, they will not. To get in war with Israel, they know it will come with a very very high cost, and the gain they will get from this high cost has to be much higher in order for them to take this step. So I don't think they will in any way try to provoke Israel or attack Israel at all.
Okay, at
At,
least I
at least,
relieve in this
at
front
least,
right now.
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
why they're not letting the Palestinians enter into Egypt? Because they want this problem to stay uh,
Yeah,
our problem and let us bleed to death.
yeah.
Yeah.
It has to do with the schizophrenia, political schizophrenia of the Egyptians, or the hypocrisy of the Egyptian leadership, actually. In Egypt, you will see like TV stations day and night, they are singing love to the Palestinians. Politicians are speaking about the Palestinian cause all the time. The Egyptian president himself, he made a huge conference and stood on stage saying, long live Palestine. Imagine the Egyptian president, for God's sake, Tahya Palestine, It was very annoying. I was
Yeah.
very sad to watch that. But imagine, and then when it comes to really helping the Palestinian people, I mean, I'm specifically speaking about like the people, like women, children
Yes,
who really
yes.
need help.
Let them
They
enter
don't.
into your country.
They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They built a double wall,
Yeah, I saw it.
and they kept the people trapped there, dealing with Hamas, dealing with the war, dealing with all the horrors there, and don't want to open the border to them.
Yes.
So where this schizophrenia is coming from, it has a legitimate reason on one
Hmm.
side, but nonsense on the other side. The
Hmm.
legitimate reason is that it's part of the Palestinian identity, like practicing violence wherever they exist is part of the Palestinian identity. And we have seen when they went to Lebanon, when they went
Tunis.
to everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, see where are Palestinians everywhere? They are practicing violence somehow. So Egypt don't want this, don't want to bring these troublemakers into the country. They
Hmm.
know they are a problem. And that's why President Sadat, when he signed the peace treaty with Israel, he took back only Sinai and refused to take back Gaza.
Yes.
because
He
I
was,
know,
in his way, he was smart,
yeah.
take those troublemakers and
Exactly.
try to live
You
with
deal with
them.
them. You deal
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
Exactly. So this is the situation in Egypt, and as a result of that, we are now in this problem, in this trouble of or this state of schizophrenia.
Mm,
But the other justifications that does not make any sense to me is that they say, oh, if we open the border, Hamas will infiltrate into Sinai, and so well, you already received hundreds of the criminals and put them in very nice hotels. The people who were freed from prison in
mm,
the prisoner hostage exchange during the ceasefire. So they put them in very nice hotels in Cairo, and so it's not, no, it's not a matter of this. It's a matter of Egypt does not want to take the responsibility of something that it knows very well it's full of trouble.
mhm. And what about China? We didn't talk about it. Why do you think they
Oh,
cooperate?
China.
They joined the military exercise together.
Yeah, it's actually part of the great power competition that's
Hmm.
happening on the chessboard of the Middle East, as I like always to say. Russia and China are exploiting the situation in the Middle East in order to have greater ground and more supporters. China is more concerned about mainly its goal is trade and economic. Egypt is very well positioned between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. We have the Suez Canal.
Mm-hmm.
So China wants to make sure that it has a hold on this because it's part of its uh, Belt and Road initiative,
Mm-hmm.
which will connect
Mm-hmm.
Asia with the Middle
Exactly.
East,
The
with
trade route,
Europe,
yeah.
yeah, and will make China even more powerful economically. So they want to make sure that Egypt is under their control. So while they made military equipment deals with Egypt, military sales to Egypt, at the same time, they also made treaties, like economic treaties, related to the Suez Canal, related to some controlling some industries in the country, and so they are on a mission, unfortunately, and it seems that China is already aligning Egypt.
Let's talk a bit about the Sunni and Shia axis. This is very interesting. Do you think Israel succeed to break the Shia axis?
Yeah, very much, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes,
Wow,
and
this is,
I don't know if I have the right to say this, but I am one of
yes,
the
you have the
people, at
right to
least
say.
as a Middle Eastern, I am proud of what the IDF has done.
Hmm.
Really. I'm
Yes.
not Israeli, but I'm proud of what the IDF has done because it's serving all of us. It's
Hmm.
serving Arabs, it's serving the people who have been suffering on the hands of the Shia militia for so
Exactly.
long
Hmm.
and on the hands of Iran in the Arab world for so long. So, so yes, it's a game changer, but the fear here is that actually, okay, like destroying the Shia axis is a necessity. I'm
Hmm.
glad it's happening, but at the same time, we have to be very careful that
About Qatar.
about Qatar and the Sunni radical Islamist axis.
This is my next question, but you're already answering it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's about like they are Qatar and Turkey and this Sunni radical
Hmm.
Islamist axis are jumping
In.
everywhere Iran and its Shia militia are withdrawing,
Hmm.
they immediately jump and try to replace or control the places where the Shia militia are withdrawing
Hmm.
and taking them over. We saw Syria, for example, is the most obvious example.
I
As
agree.
soon as the Iranian militia, Iranian sponsored militia, withdrew, Assad regime fell, and who took over? Not
Turkey.
the Syrian
Hmm.
people but Al Julani and the extremist is there. So
Yeah.
we have to keep this in mind that everywhere the Shia radicals will leave, the Sunni radicals will
We'll
jump
get in.
and take over. Yeah.
So, how do you see now that Israel succeed to break the Shia axis, the relationship of Israel and Qatar and maybe Turkey? Let's put Turkey aside for a second. How do you see the relationship between Qatar and Israel right now? Because they know how to manipulate everyone. They know
Yes.
how to buy with money everyone. They are doing a very good job beneath the ground. So, how do you see it?
You know, Qatar is manipulating the United States, the
Mhm.
most powerful country in the world. So for it, Israel is very easy to manipulate.
But
You know, if it can
we're
manipulate
supposed
the
to be
US.
smarter, aren't we? No, it's a joke. It's
I
a joke.
know,
No, no, it's a
but
joke.
yeah, but the thing is that for Turkey, yes, I agree with you. Turkey is a different story. Turkey is more complicated than that. Turkey is a real power in the region. So
It is.
Turkey is a different story. Qatar is very much in bias to the Islamist ideology, as you know, is very much in support. It's the main supporter in the region. It was alongside Iran to all the terrorist organizations in the
Mhm.
region, even in Afghanistan, you know.
Mhm.
So Qatar is very well known for that, very well known for supporting terrorist organizations, and from there, it's where it gets its power.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's playing the game with the West that, okay, I'll fund your operation, military operations in the region. For the US, oh, come and start a military base here. They invited even the UK and others, you know, you can come and start a military base on our island, this very
Mhm.
little island. Why? They think it will give them protection and it will give them importance in the region where everyone, especially in the Gulf region, is competing with each other over who
Yeah.
is the most important and who is the most powerful. So it has to do with their tribal background, you know, this tribal identity of competition and so. So this is why Qatar is doing what it is doing right now. But the problem is that to some extent, Israel believed that Qatar can play a role in negotiations with Hamas.
Please
But
tell me what do you think. Please
exactly,
tell me.
big mistake. It was a
I
big mistake.
agree.
Yeah,
I don't know what came to their mind to think Qatar and Egypt, by the way,
yeah, yeah.
can be mediator
They cannot. They are
between the
biased.
Hamas to
They
us.
are biased. But who are the other options? Who can speak directly to Hamas? No one. No one. Only Egypt and Qatar have direct access to Hamas. They have
Mhm.
leverage also over the leaders of Hamas. So that's perhaps why Israel thought, like, okay, we have to deal with that. We have to accept that these can be the two
You think
mediators.
this is what is happening?
I'm sure,
Mm.
because what is the other options? You know, who else Hamas would want to speak to or would listen to? No one. No,
But
who has
it
access?
looks like for 2 years they play a game. They didn't do anything to
Nothing.
promote it or
If
to
you
solve it.
if you see all the positions Qatar and Egypt has taken over these years were only to protect Hamas and to
Exactly.
keep them in power for as long as possible. Every time Israel is so close to crush Hamas, they
Ah,
intervene.
we can release
Oh, listen.
hostages. Ah, we can find them. Ah, we can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Why? They wanted to throw a lifeline to Hamas. That's it.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
in the appearance of a ceasefire, but no, it's not a ceasefire. It's an attempt to rescue Hamas. That's it. So they are biased. They are not the right moderators. But who else can do this job?
Mm.
Unfortunately, no one. That's why Israel had to deal with it.
Why do you think it takes 2 years almost to Israel to smash Hamas and end this war? Because see what we did in Iran in 12 days. How
Yeah.
do you see it? Because in Israel we have, all kind of voices. Sorry, some of us saying that it's very hard to fight in these urban places and the way they are hiding behind the civilians and the way they operate there is not
Yeah.
easy. It's not like Iran. Others saying that there are hiding interest to continue with the war. How do you see it from
Oh, I've got
objective point of view?
This last point, like, that the government want to continue with the war indefinitely. First of all, let's remember that the Israeli government did not choose this war. It's
Mhm.
not the one who started this war. It's Hamas. And if Hamas did not do October 7, the Israeli government wouldn't start a war at all in Gaza. On the contrary, I mean, on October 6, 2023, things were calm.
Mhm.
what started this war is Hamas. So this is one thing. So it's definitely not the government wants to keep going on with the war. No government wants to do that. And the people are exhausted and the military, the IDF is fatigued. Yes, of course. Of course, it has no military, I mean, is in such a tension for 2 years and still standing and still
Mhm.
fighting and still winning. This is phenomenal, you know?
Yeah.
So, so this is one thing. So of course they don't want to continue forever. And by the way, not only fighting against one front or on one front, but
Seven.
on several,
Seven.
exactly, on 7 fronts. So it's not an easy war. So this is one thing. The difference between Gaza and Iran is not only because of the geographic space, so Iran is bigger, it's easier to target specific targets without hurting the people. And of course, Gaza is so small, and if you can, it's impossible to target Hamas, especially that Hamas is hiding or Hamas militants are hiding among civilians. So it's impossible to shoot at them without causing collateral damage to other people or places. So this is, of course, this is one of the main differences. But the other difference is that Iran is a pariah state. No one likes Iran worldwide. But Gaza has become a cause for people who don't even know anything about the Middle East or belong to the Middle East,
They,
you
they
know?
found the meaning in their own life when they found Palestine.
Exactly. Exactly. People who
Yeah,
cannot even locate Israel on the map, you know?
I
So
agree.
these people are now adopting this cause, and every action Israel is taking inside Gaza is
They get it crazy.
amplified as a
Mhm.
war crime, as genocide, as blah, blah, blah. So Israel is very careful about its actions
Mhm.
inside Gaza and trying to do the job of targeting Hamas while at the same time making sure it will not be criticized for it
Mhm.
or maybe isolated by the international community as a result of this war or so. So it's challenging mainly because of the international pressure that is favoring Hamas in this war, unfortunately.
Mhm. Do you think Trump plan to help or suggest to the Gazian citizen to leave Gaza and go to other countries, it's good?
It's a brilliant one, by the way. It's
Mm-hmm.
a brilliant plan. And I tell you why I say it's brilliant. It's from my experience in Egypt. A few years ago, President El-Sisi, when he came in power, one of his best projects, actually, we had a lot of random housing areas in Cairo and around Cairo, and in Alexandria as well, and around Alexandria. The two main cities in Egypt, for those who don't know. So, and the most populated. So what happened is that he took people, and the people in these random areas were living in terrible, terrible, terrible conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and they were suffering a lot. So what happened is that he displaced them. He literally displaced them from these areas. And he said exactly like President Trump said, I will build houses for you. It will be more human-like houses. You can live with dignity and so, and I will bring you back. And he built them cities and houses actually that are, made us, like the people who live in other places, envious of them. And he brought them back and changed their lives forever. So
Yeah.
why now we don't do the same thing with the Gazans? Consider Gaza as a city of Egypt and
Mm-hmm.
let these people just be displaced somewhere else, maybe in Sinai, in I don't know, anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
get displaced somewhere else for a few years, a certain period of time, until their city is rebuilt and until their political system is rebuilt without Hamas in it, and then bring them back. So they live in dignity, they live in a place where they don't fear war, they live in a place where they can, have a real educational system that doesn't grow them up as terrorists and so. So this
Yeah.
should be the goal. But why they are rejecting it in Egypt and other Arab countries before? Because the proposal is coming from the United States.
I thought they're rejecting it because they want this area to make Israel bleed all the time. It make
Yes.
Israel weaker. It make Israel in an inner conflict. So it's like the
Yeah.
greatest weapon against Israel to leave it the way it is. This is why
Yes.
I think they are rejecting it. The moment Gaza problem will be solved, we will be, it's like, I don't know, like 80% of our security problem will be solved
Not only in Israel, but in the
in
region.
the
Like
region.
all the
Since,
premises upon
see?
which terrorist organizations are operating in the
Yeah.
region actually
And
is
they don't want
Israel.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a weapon.
It's yeah,
Wow, Dalia, Dalia Ziada, you are so you have such an Israeli name. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
First of all, when are you plan to come to Israel?
Right now I'm applying for asylum in the United States, so I don't have a passport to travel abroad yet. So I have to wait until I have this passport, hopefully in 1 year or so.
Okay,
And I promised myself my first destination will be Israel.
yes, and put me in first priority. I'm going to spell it.
Yes,
I'm going to show you around. I'm living in North Israel. You can see the Golan Heights here,
yes.
Syria, Lebanon, all this area, very beautiful
Beautiful,
one. So
beautiful.
I'm waiting for you. Do you have a message from the Israeli people? Do you want to send them something before we end it?
Yes, I want to tell them that it's not easy what you're going through these days, but just look at your history. It's something that I've learned it from myself, this resilience. You always bounce back stronger. And I've adopted this even as part of my ideology, is just every time I'm in trouble, I just remember what the Israeli people, what the Jewish people has gone through over their history. And I tell myself, no, I'll just bounce back much stronger. And yes, just remember this. You will come back much stronger from this crisis that you and the whole region is living right now, and you're already rewriting the history of our region. You are
I
doing it. So
completely
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Amen, Dalia, and I'm waiting for you in Israel.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah,
ביי.
thank you.
ביי ביי. תודה רבה על הצפייה למי שראה בערוץ היוטיוב ולהאזנה בשאר האפליקציות. אתם מוזמנים גם להמשיך איתנו לערוץ הטלגרם, שם אנחנו מתעדכנים גם בכל מיני דברים שוטפים שקורים במהלך היום. יש גם קבוצת דיונים, אנחנו נמצאים בכל הרשתות החברתיות, אז כמובן שאתם מוזמנים. אם אתם באפליקציות, תסמנו לנו כוכב, תגיבו, תרשמו לנו דברים טובים, וגם לא, אם יש לכם משהו אחר להגיד. אז נתראה בפרק הבא.